This is pretty much the biggest mistake that people make when they try and lose weight. I've lost over 25 kilograms, but before that, I was eating clean, I was hitting my steps, I was tracking my food, I was doing everything right, but I still wasn't losing weight. Now, the truth is, I wasn't the problem. I just didn't know where to start. And once I did find my starting point, that's when the fat finally started dropping. In this video, I'll walk you through my 3-step system for finding your starting point and exactly what to do along your journey so that you don't plateau, you don't binge eat, or you don't burn out. So let's get straight into it. So this is pretty much step 0. Before we find your calories for losing weight, we need to find your maintenance calories. So what you need to do is go onto 5 TDEE calculators and make a note of what they say. I'll even link them down below just so that you have them. Now, the reason that we go onto 5 different calculators is that every single calculator will give you different numbers for what your maintenance calories are. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to take the average of those 5 numbers so that we can have like the best accurate starting point for whatever your calories are right now. So get all of those numbers and divide them by 5 to find out the average. Now, that number, whatever you get, that is going to be your maintenance calories for you to maintain whatever weight that you're currently at right now. So now that you have your maintenance calories, this is where most people go wrong. So pretty much the standard online fitness advice is to go into a 500 to 750 calorie deficit from whatever number that you got. Now, the truth is, if you were anything like me when I first started, you don't have that much muscle mass whatsoever. So if you go into that deep of a deficit and you start losing weight, by the end of your diet, you're pretty much going to be looking like a piece of string cheese. Now, if that's your goal, congratulations, because all you have to do is eat like 5 apples a day and smoke 10 packs of cigarettes and you'll look like that, no problem. But if you want to look like the picture that you have in your head right now of the most lean and aesthetic body that you want, the only way is to retain and even build muscle whilst you lose the weight. The question is, how do you do this? So what you do is that you go into a very small deficit of around 200 calories. So if your maintenance is say 2,600, you'd go into a deficit of 2,400 calories. Now, what this does is this keeps your food, more specifically your carbohydrates, really, really high so that you can push yourself on the gym floor. And think about it this way. Your gym floor performance is the only thing that's keeping your muscle on your body right now. And so if you're eating like 1,500 calories a day, how the fuck are you gonna expect to look aesthetic at the end of your diet when you're literally eating like a starving child? When you eat a higher amount of calories, you're literally giving your body the building blocks to retaining and building muscle as you diet down. And the craziest thing is that if you retain more muscle as you lose weight, you won't even have to lose that much weight to get to your goal body fat percentage. Now, to put this into perspective for you, a person might lose 5 kilograms of fat and 2.5 kilograms of muscle in order to reach 10% body fat. But what if I told you that same person could have lost 3 kilograms of pure fat and still reached 10% body fat? Now, the thing is, they're both 10% body fat, but who do you think looks better? It's obviously going to be the second guy because he's at a higher body weight and retained more muscle when he's reached 10% body fat. Now, to prove this to you, this is why on my first cut, I could barely see my abs at 72 kilograms when I was eating 1,800 calories. Me, a grown man, eating 1,800 calories. Now, if you compare that to my current cut right now, I'm eating around 2,400 calories, and this is what I look like at 76 kilograms. I can literally see my abs so much clearer at a higher body weight and at higher calories just because I've retained and built more muscle this time whilst I was cutting down. Hopefully now you can see like why retaining muscle and having higher calories to eat on your diet is so much better for your weight loss. And not to mention, like, who doesn't like eating more food on a diet? Like, let's face it, you're probably fat right now because you like food. So why would you cut all that away right at the start of your diet? But that's not all there is to it, because If all you do is go into a small 200 calorie deficit, sure, you're going to be losing weight. You're going to be losing a good amount of weight per week, but it's not as fast as we would like it. So this next step speeds up the progress, but whilst still retaining all of your muscle. So basically what we need to do is increase your 200 calorie deficit to a 500 calorie deficit or even higher, so that we can lose more weight per week. But we don't do that through decreasing our food because of everything that we just talked about. But instead, the way that we do this is through increasing the amount of steps that you take per day. And I know what you're thinking. I can literally hear the thoughts inside of your brain right now. Everyone and their nan literally tells you to walk more. But think about it, there's a reason why everyone tells you to do it. And it's simply because it's the best way to burn extra calories without even thinking about it. You literally don't get tired, your knees don't hurt like as if you were running every single day. And number 3, let's face it, it's easy as fuck to just go for a walk. Like, even babies learn to walk like relatively quickly. In fact, walking and getting in my steps is so important to me that I've literally bought a walking pad for my home just so that I don't have to leave my house to get my steps in. Because what I've done is I've lowered the barrier to entry to staying active, and that has probably been one of the best decisions that I've ever made. If you're serious about losing weight, hit around 10,000 steps every single day without fail, no excuses. So at this point, we've got your 200 calorie deficit from your food, and we've got your 300-ish calorie deficit from walking. Now, this alone is pretty much enough to get you halfway to your goal. But what do you do when your fat loss eventually plateaus? Adaptive thermogenesis. This is basically where your body gets used to the calorie deficit that you've been on this whole time. So as you lose more and more weight, that 500 calorie deficit that we initially had gets smaller and smaller. And when this happens, you need to make your deficit bigger so that you can keep on losing a good amount of weight per week. So first of all, how do you know that you've plateaued? Well, the way I like to know that I'm in a plateau is when my weekly rate of weight loss drops below 0.5% of my body weight per week. So for example, say I'm 80 kilograms, right? If I lose less than 0.4 kilograms a week, that's when I know that my rate of weight loss is lower than it needs to be per week. And so it's technically not a plateau because you're still like losing a little bit of weight, but it's going to be slower than I want it to. So that's when I know that my deficit needs to be increased. Now, typically the mistake that people make when they reach a plateau is to keep on pulling from food. But then we just run into all the problems that we've just talked about. Less food, less calories, less carbs to fuel your workouts. Now, for this, there are 2 solutions that keeps your food high, but increases your deficit so that you can keep on losing a good amount of weight per week. Now, the first one is that you can increase your daily steps by 2,500, or you can add in 10 minutes of cardio every single day. And when I say cardio, I don't mean like those HIIT classes or doing like running or the Stairmaster. What I mean is low impact cardio that you can do for a long time. So for example, the stationary bike or incline walking. Now, every single time that you plateau, you do either of these 2 things so that you can get back into that deficit and keep on losing weight. But there's still the key question remaining. When do you lower food? Now, the answer to that is that you cannot physically do any more activity per day, or you just can't be asked because you don't have the time. When that happens and you reach a plateau, then you can decrease your food. So for example, right now I'm on 2,400 calories, like 20k steps a day, 45 minutes of cardio 5 times a week. Now, the next plateau that I reach with my weight, I'm probably going to push my cardio to 60 minutes 5 times a week. But then after that, I probably wouldn't be able to push output any longer. So at that point, the next plateau, I'll take from food by 200 calories. I'll be on 2,200 calories. Now the next plateau after that, I'll be on 2,000. Now the next plateau, I'll be on 1,800. And that's the lowest that I'm willing to go with my calories. Obviously, in every single cutting phase, there's gonna be a point where calories become super low. But the difference is that you're only in that low calorie state for around 1 or 2 weeks at a time just to get the final kilograms of fat off. Now the difference with this method is that instead of cutting calories all the way at the start and starving yourself throughout this whole dieting phase, you start on the high calories and high output so that you can build so much more muscle throughout this phase, which then makes you look way better at the end for when you finally do lose all of the weight. If you want me to do all of this for you, there's a link at the top of the description where you can work with me one-to-one. Peace.